I don't know what it is.
Well, we're going to find out here in a second.
You know, it's funny. I looked, I was like, where's my bobber? It's probably a small bass. I can't.
Fighting whatever it is, it's fighting good. Dude, get that fish in.
That is not a small bass. That is not a small bass. What's up, yins, guys? Welcome back to Fishing PA with Ryan Reed. In this episode, we're going to continue on with the theme of fishing for beginners. Now, Jason S., you recently reached out to me and asked me if I would be willing to do an episode on a basic rig that would allow you to get out and fish from shore and catch fish. So this episode is dedicated to you and everyone else out there that just wants a basic rig to get into the sport of fishing in order to catch fish from shore. So in this episode, we're going to discuss the equipment and the tools needed in order to rig yourself up with a basic bobber fishing rig with live bait in order to be productive from the bank to catch fish. All right, guys, just to go ahead and jump into the discussion. The first thing we need to talk about is your rod and reel combo. Now for a rod, I want to talk about the length of a rod and the action of a rod. So the length of a rod that we're looking at, just to kind of get into the sport of fishing, you want to look for something that's anywhere between, I would say, 5 foot 6 inches and 6 foot 6 inches. Something that might be like medium to heavy action. My thought is start off with a 6 foot 6 rod that's medium action. You're going to get yourself a rod like this. Now this is a Shakespeare rod. This particular rod you can get for less than 20 bucks. So this is a good starter rod. Now, this also comes with the Shakespeare reel. And this particular reel is a spinning reel. Now, a lot of people usually start off with spin cast reels, which are the closed face reels. And they have the little button on the bottom. And I'll show you a picture of them. However, I'm going to recommend that you guys jump right in and start with a spinning reel. Okay, the two differences, a button versus a latch here in order to release line. It's going to change the way you cast a little bit, but if you guys are looking to get into the sport of fishing, a spinning rod and reel combo is going to be very, very solid for you across multiple species of fish. And this 6 foot 6 medium action rod is going to allow you to catch anything from a bluegill to a bass to a catfish. You can also catch pike on these types of rods as well. So this is a good all-around rod for you, and it's an inexpensive rod. And the style here is really good for hook sets, specifically on trout as well. So this is a solid combo. So take a look at the Shakespeare Agility Graphite Combo Rod and Reels. Like I said, they're less than 20 bucks. And we're going to talk about the spinning reel in particular in order to kind of get started into the sport of fishing. Now that we talked about the rod and reel combo, let's talk about line for a second. For multiple species of fish, I'm going to always use and recommend fluorocarbon. Now, the fluorocarbon that I use, you guys hopefully can see this, is the Berkeley Vanish. Okay, so this is a very, very solid line for you guys as beginners. This line is virtually invisible underwater. So it's going to be good for multiple species, and it's going to allow you to catch, again, panfish like bluegill and perch, and you're going to be able to catch trout on this. And it comes in different sizes. My recommendation is to start with 6, maybe 8 pounds. I really wouldn't go above 8 pounds as a starting point, just because 8 pounds is sort of heavy for some of the native pond fish that you're going to be trying to get after. But I would say 6 to 8 pound Berkeley Vanish line. This is going to be a very solid line for you guys as a starting point. And once you get your rod and reel spooled up with this, we're about ready to take a look at the actual rig that we're going to be using from shore. Okay, before we get into the bobber rig, the rest of the equipment that you need in order to get this thing set up. So we have a rod and reel combo. It's completely spooled with line here. In order to build this thing out, in order to rig this line up, we need a couple of things. First thing, we're going to need good scissors. So I have my scissors here. We're going to need a pair of pliers, which I also have here. We're also going to need split shots. So I have 2 split shots here. You guys can see that's what a split shot looks like. I'll put up a picture of that as well. We're going to need swivels. So this is a pack of Eagle Claw swivels. And we're also going to need a bobber. Now, don't make fun of me. This is a pink bobber. Deanna has a ton of these things, so I opted to use this for this video. I'm not going to lie. If you guys check out one of my older videos, beaten up by the pink bobber, Deanna whooped my butt on this particular rig. She caught 5 or 6 fish in a matter of 10 minutes, and I was stuck throwing a spinnerbait for the entire afternoon and didn't see a single bass. So, we're going to go with the pink bobber. Now, it's worth noting, okay, this is important. With all the advancements in technology, the fishing industry has changed immensely. There's a lot of flashy lures out there. There's a lot of flashy equipment out there. Things are super expensive. But you guys don't have to invest a ton of money into your equipment to do this style of fishing. This is a great way for you to get into the sport initially, get your kids involved as well. You guys can go out and spend less than 20 bucks on a rod and reel, 10 bucks online, and probably less than another $20 for scissors, pliers, you know, your swivels, your split shots, and your hooks, along with your bobber. So, you know, the equipment to get started, you can get started into the sport of fishing with bait for under 50 bucks probably at Walmart. So it's important to say that. In addition to that, this particular rig, sometimes you can't beat a bobber with a worm or a minnow over any of the other baits that are out there. Sometimes this method catches more fish on certain days than any other method out there. So this is tried and true, and it's going to be very versatile for you fishing from shore as well. All right, guys, so we have the end of the line here. Okay, so we're all rigged up. Now, one thing I want to mention is when I tie knots, I use 2 knots. I use the improved clinch knot, and I use the improved double clinch knot. Those are my 2 knots. I tie a single clinch for everything that I'm fishing, for walleye, trout, bass, whatever, and I tie a double clinch knot when I am out there musky fishing with some of these bigger baits. It's the same knot, just a little bit stronger with the double for those bigger baits and that heavier leader equipment. So what we're going to do here, first things first, again, we have our swivels, we have our split shots, we have our bobber, and we have our hooks. I want to talk about hooks for a second. We're not going to get into this terminal tackle discussion until one of my later episodes. However, for this particular rig, I'm going to give you guys 2 options. I'm going to give you guys a size 6 Eagle Claw hook, snelled, or I'm going to go with a size 8 Eagle Claw hook, snelled. Okay, when you're talking about bass fishing, you can go with the size 6. When you're talking about panfish like bluegill and perch, you want to go to a size 8 or a size 10 because their mouths are a lot smaller. And if you guys go with the size 6 hook for bluegill and perch, a lot of times they're just going to steal your bait off of there, and you're going to end up downsizing your hook, you know, to a 10 in order to catch those fish. So my thought is size 6 for bass, size 8 or 10 for anything small like bluegill or perch or even trout. You know, sometimes trout like the smaller stuff as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this rig. So first things first, whenever you're doing this, you're looking at your line. The way this is going to work is you're going to actually start with your bobber at the top of the rig. So we're going to go top to bottom here. So I'm going to take my bobber and I'm going to attach this. Now the bobbers typically have 2 hooks, one on the top and one on the bottom. You're just basically going to run your line through there and you're going to tie this bobber to the line. Okay, we're going to come about 12 inches, maybe 14 inches down. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this split shot. I'm going to take, or my pliers rather, I'm going to open the split shot up. Okay, so I'm going to open that split shot up. You guys can see that. I'm going to take this, I'm going to wrap the split shot around the line. So you don't have to like tie this or anything. You just have to get the line in the teeth and the mouth of the split shot. And then once you have that on there like that, we're just going to take the pliers and we're going to just cinch that closed. Okay? So now what you have here is you have the bobber tied onto the line, and now you have that split shot in line with the bobber. Okay, so that's going to add a little bit of weight. Now, there's a lot of different sizes of split shots. You can go smaller, you can go heavier. Depends on the wind, depends on the body of water that you're fishing. Sometimes you don't even need a split shot, depending upon what the weather is like outside. You know, I put this on usually with wind so I can get a little bit further cast, even without wind, a little bit further cast. So we're going to go with this size. We got our hook, we got our bobber, we got our split shot. And the last thing we're going to do here is come to the tag end of the line, the very end of the line, and we're just going to open up our swivel. Okay. Now that we have our swivels open, we're going to take this and we're going to tie a clinch knot. So I'm going to show you the diagram really quick. So here's the clinch knot. Now the clinch knot you're going to take and you actually loop through the swivel and you make a U, okay? So we're going to make a U with our swivel. Hopefully you guys can see this. So there's our U. We're going to take our line and we're going to wrap this puppy around this line 6 times. So there's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so now you have this tag end. You have your thumb and you see the hole there. So there's going to be a gap between this hole here, between the swivel and your twisted line and my finger. Now I'm just going to take and I'm going to run the tag line through that hole and through that loop, and I'm going to take it like this. So now you have that through the loop, and then I'm just going to tighten this up. And what I like to do at this point, once I get that kind of squared up and tight, I just come up here and I just wet the line. Now fluorocarbon kind of requires that you do that. So I'm going to just give this a nice little tug here. And what you guys are going to see, if you look at that, you're going to see the improved cinch knot or clinch knot on top of that swivel with the tag. Now that you guys have the tag and you have your line tight there, you can take your scissors and you can cut some of the tag off, and now we have our knot and the swivel at the end with just a little bit of tag. So back to where we're at here. We have our bobber, 12 inches, we have the split shot, and then probably another 12 inches or so we have this swivel. Maybe 10 inches, I would say, to the swivel. Now you guys can adjust this. So we can always take this and we can slide this split shot down, or we can take this and we can slide this bobber down. All you got to do is loosen it up. So it's really your preference. My thought is you should have anywhere, I would say, from 18 inches to 24 inches from the top of the bobber to where the actual hook's at. Okay, so now that we have the bobber, the split shot, and the swivel on, we're just going to pull one of these hooks out. So I'm going to go with a size 6 hook, just for a reference point here. So you guys see that the hooks come out of these packages. Eagle Claw actually has them tied in a loop already. So all you have to do at this point is just take your swivel, open the swivel up. Once you get that opened up there, so you take your hook, you loop it through the swivel, and then you just basically take the snap swivel and you snap her right back in place. Okay, now that we got everything hooked up, we got our bobber, we got our split shot, we got our swivel, we got our hook. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate taking just a worm and hooking it on to the end of this hook. So you have this size 6 hook. You're going to take your worm like this, pretend this is a real worm. You're going to go in through the top of the worm, like so. You're going to run it up the hook shaft, and then you're just going to bring it right out of the top. So this is kind of how I hook most of my worms. And then typically what I'll do is with the actual worm, I'll just take it and I'll cut a chunk off. Okay, so you don't need a giant piece of worm on there when you're fishing from shore. When you're doing this, you're after whatever species is living there. You can basically do something that looks like that. So the goal here is you don't want to take and you don't want to essentially hook your entire worm onto this bait. You only need a small piece like that, maybe just a little bit longer, just to give it a little bit of a tail. And your goal with this is going to be to cast this rig directly from the shore out to the lake. So you're either going to pitch it as far out as you can, or you're going to look for certain key elements from shore that you're going to pitch this bobber around. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Where to pitch this thing, where it's going to be effective. So your goal with a bobber is to put this where the fish are. So in the evening, a lot of the fish will move from deeper water to shallow water. So that's your best bet to catch fish with a bobber rig. Your goal is to kind of suspend that bait off the bottom, and those fish that are swimming by are going to see that suspended bait and they're going to eat it. So bluegills will do this, bass will do this, perch will do this, catfish will do this, trout will do this. A lot of the native species of Pennsylvania will do this. So what you're going to look for is you're going to look for casting this bobber next to tree branches, in rocks, in logs, in stumps, and weeds. When you see big chunks of weeds that kind of stop. So when you're looking at the lake and you see weeds and they go out so far, where those weeds stop, that's where you want to cast that bobber to. Okay, so this rig is going to suspend the bait off the bottom, and it's going to give you an opportunity to catch multiple species of fish. How I fish this, a great example of a bobber rig fished, is go over to Twin Lakes in Greensburg, or go somewhere where you guys can rent a paddle boat. Take your kids, throw a life jacket on them, rent a paddle boat, take your newly acquired rod and reel combo with your bobber rig and everything else, get some minnows or get some worms, hook them up, and then basically just paddle to shorelines and cast, brush piles and stumps and logs and rocks. And that's what we did when we fished out at Yellow Creek, Deanna and I, this year. And we caught, the one trip that we went out, we caught 40 plus bluegill a piece. It was just a lot of fun. So you're catching some bass intermingled in that, and you have some options for other fish that are moving up the water column later in the day. So those are the key elements and structure things that you want to look for. If you're on a boat launch or you're at a dock, try casting a bobber around the dock. If you look down and it looks like maybe 5 to 6 feet of water, maybe you want to move that bobber up a little bit to get it deeper. So, you got to play around with that, but my standard recommendation for you guys is to start off with that bobber about 18 to 24 inches away from the actual bait. So give it maybe 1.5 to 2 feet and just see what happens. If you're not getting any strikes, move the bobber up or move it down. Based off the water you guys are fishing, the deeper the water, the further up you want that bobber with more space to get that bait up just a little bit deeper in the water column. So again, once you guys have your generic rig ready to go, you're ready to get out there and start fishing from shore. All right, guys, so what we did today is we essentially rigged up one of my basic rods with a bobber, a split shot, a swivel, and a size 6 hook. So this will basically get you guys out into the water and get you started fishing. Now, we're only focusing on this particular floating bobber rig. There are hundreds of different variations of this, and there are hundreds of ways to fish from shore. So hopefully this information was beneficial to get you guys started. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button for me, or leave me a comment below and let me know, what I can do better, or if there's something you guys want to see in particular that will be more helpful to you, because that's my goal with these videos. I want to try to help people that are new to the sport get involved in it, some quick tutorials, provide some information, bounce some ideas, and get you guys involved into the sport of fishing. I'm passionate about it. I love to teach about this stuff. Hopefully that comes through and you guys just continue to get some decent information off of me. All right, guys, if you like the content overall, please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to ring the bell so you guys get notified of all the new content I'm going to be putting out this winter. All right, guys, I greatly appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care.
Catch double bluegills all day long. I just had a fish come up and attack the bobber. Did you get him? Looks like it. Yeah, another double. Another double. I love bluegill fishing sometimes.